Move, move, don't stop.
I don't want to stop until Luhansk, Donetsk, and Crimea are returned to Ukraine.
Good.
The war changes every month, constantly. You don't know what will be used against you tomorrow or the next day. Crawling, without legs, arms, but still surviving somehow. Not for long, of course. That's why we're recon men.
My city is occupied. They destroyed my house completely. That's why I'm motivated.
How the battlefield in Ukraine has changed and is changing technologically. Tanks, artillery, drones. How do the Ukrainian armed forces fight back attacks in the most difficult areas? What do they and the occupiers learn and adapt to? Are European countries ready for such a war? In this episode, Ukrainian and French soldiers will tell and show us about this and more. Let's go. Shoot the entrance. Now shoot at this one. Good. 2 birds above us. You're working as number 2. Let's go. Control the entrance. I see the basement. Control the basement.
Basement by basement, house by house, the recon men of the Kara-Dag brigade are combing every meter where Russian soldiers might be hiding. When a group is moving, you need to look at your feet, at the sky, and look around, so as not to run into an enemy ambush. That's why you have to always pay attention.
Made in Russia. The bastards were here. I found Russian matches, but no bastards.
The Russian army's tactic is to sneak through the Ukrainian defense unnoticed, to enter abandoned dugouts, etc., to dig holes, even any pipe, basement, where 2 people have a foothold, then 2 more come in, and 2 more. It seems like they come in small numbers, but at the end of the month there is a horde, and this horde starts working. Such infantry advances, especially in summer greenery, cannot always be stopped by drones. That is why a special reconnaissance platoon is deployed. There was a situation when we were storming, and we made a hole in the enemy's dugout on top to throw grenades in and open it. We threw grenades in there, 7 of them, and our drones also dropped grenades, but still in the morning, the enemy came out, reported something on the radio, and went back in. He was all rewound, in the turnstiles. They are like worms. You cut them into 3 parts, but they still crawl. Similarly with bird strikes, I saw repeatedly how a drone flew into the enemy's back. He flew 5 meters up, did a triple salto, but still got up and ran. They crawling without legs, arms, but still surviving somehow. Not for long, of course. Then we clean them up. But they are resilient. One of them broke through to the pipe. We went in to clear it, threw grenades at him. He still survived. We had to go to clear him again, because he covered himself with a corpse, put bulletproof vests in front, and thus survived. Although he could hardly speak, we came back the second time, and he was still grunting. Each of our guys has his own character, and each time the guys come out from under mortar fire, FPV attacks. Sometimes they get wounded. Of course, it's hard. You need time to readjust because you realize that you will go back there again and everything will want to kill you. And you need to, let's say, keep yourself in check. Keep everything under control. Keep your finger on the pulse of the situation. Cover those who are with you in the battles for the position. Where a scout arrives, he is in charge. And here, you need to set yourself up correctly. I know from my own experience that it is difficult, but that's why we are recon men. Combat missions are becoming more dangerous. Every time you have to fight not only the Russian occupiers, but also drones. Our task was to accompany the engineers. When we mined everything and pulled back, literally 30 meters away, 2 FPVs came. I tried to shoot it down, but it did not fly to a certain distance from which it could be reached with a pump-action rifle. The drone made a deceptive, tricky maneuver to show that it seemed to fly further, and I switched to another FPV that came from behind me. The first drone made a deceptive maneuver, came back, and about 20 meters away it hit the ground. The debris flew. The engineer and I were hit. Drones are our biggest problem. We use pump-action rifles against them, among other things. We're training, the infantry is training, and there are separate classes. We are constantly learning how to counteract drones, but there are so many of them. They are still doing a lot of trouble to us. They are targeting manpower, hitting dugouts, mining armored vehicles routes. This is a problem. Everything has changed a lot compared to 2022. The war is changing every month, constantly. The flight range of the same FPV drones is also changing. They are already flying 40 kilometers away. Everything changes very quickly, and it is very difficult to keep up with these changes. It's hard for infantrymen now. It is almost impossible to stay at an observation post for a very long time because they can be detected by an enemy drone. That is why our infantrymen try not to reveal themselves, to behave as covertly as possible. Of course, whenever possible, they also continue to observe. But the main means of reconnaissance are drones that monitor the entire front line and transmit tactical and operational information. Also, our main task is to detect and destroy enemy targets so that the enemy does not reach our infantrymen.
FPVs can't fly everywhere, and you can't hit the enemy with a drone drop everywhere. And it's not always possible to fly a heavy bomber during the day. That's why we mine a lot, using drones to stop the enemy and its dynamics, so that it loses time and manpower to mine.
On his vampire drone, Demon, in addition to mining, destroys enemy targets and performs logistical tasks. Despite his extensive combat experience, he says he needs to improve all the time.
Here it is impossible to know everything, because every week, every month, some new firmware appears. People are coming up with something new munitions, new drones, remotes, wires, some programs. That's why you can develop in this direction for a very long time. And it's just a treasure trove of information.
Today there is no more experienced army in Europe than the Ukrainian one. Yes, they are gradually rearming, trying to keep up with the times. It seems to me, with all due respect, that they know not a lot about modern warfare. Our guys who have been abroad for training say that we can already teach Europeans how to fight, and not them how to teach us. Yes, they have military equipment, they have FPV and Mavic drones, but they don't know how to use it and how to counter it.
Российские танки и БМП догорают после очередной атаки.
Russian tanks and infantry fighting vehicles burn after another attack, and this is the headquarters that guided the stopping of the enemy assault. It would seem that it is difficult to predict everything on the battlefield, but planning, as the Khartiya brigade says, is the key to success. Pointing guns in time, raising FPV drones in time. If you don't plan carefully enough, and don't make a plan in your head, especially the stages of destroying the enemy, it can lead to some certain consequences, where you miss a strike or don't finalize a particular direction. Today, the situation in the area under the unit's control is a bit calmer, but the work continues. Communication with the infantry and artillery is ongoing. The position of one of the drone operators' units was hit by a Russian drone. Artillery started firing.
There, an enemy D-30 shoots from time to time.
We needed a counterstrike. D-30s started shooting there. Our guys are in the shelter, everything is fine, we have communication with them. But their damn artillery has already started hitting there. Hit them with something, kick their asses. Now the big brother will hit them a couple of times and destroy that D-30. Every piece of the front line and its approaches are monitored by drones. Since 2022, a lot has changed. Logistics, tactics, any movement. Everything we were taught a year, 2, 5 ago is being leveled. And it is leveled because the use of technology in the military is growing and moving forward. And in general, you no longer know what will be used against you tomorrow or next day. You've just prepared for conventional FPVs, and they're already pushing fiber optics on you. I will not be surprised that in a week or two some replacement for fiber optic drones will come. Something else will be invented. So in general, war is also a war of technology. Not only drones, but also ground robots are playing an increasingly important role on the battlefield. Ukrainian soldiers successfully evacuated a wounded with the help of such a robot. The robot, called Cockroach, moved 12 kilometers to the evacuation point and back. This is the best I've seen. Awesome!
At the beginning, when I joined this unit, we had only one such drone, a cockroach sapper. This one drone was the beginning of our long journey. We realized that this was a promising project, because in the future, they will be able to simply replace most of the problematic issues at the front line. For example, the same mining, logistics, and also involve it in assault operations or battle preparation.
Base in touch.
On the line.
This is another example of the effective work of ground robots during the Khartiya Brigade's offensive operation near the village Lipsy, Kharkiv region. But ground robots are now most widely used for the logistics of ammunition and provisions.
The things that infantrymen used to carry on their backs, let's just say, can now be done by ground drones. If it's bulky logistics, it's more complicated when, for example, fuel needs to be brought to the position, ammunition. It's hard for people to carry that. Usually in such cases, armored vehicles are sent there, but there is also a high risk that it will be hit, because it is quite large and can be easily spotted. But the advantage of a ground drone is that it is smaller. It will perform the same task, and even if it is hit, we just will send the next one.
There are many volunteers, citizens of European countries in the ranks of Ukraine's defense forces. We visited the training of the Revanche Tactical Group, a unit of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. Here we met both absolute beginners in military affairs and experienced fighters. I am a war veteran now. I have combat experience. I don't want to stop until Luhansk, Donetsk, and Crimea are returned to Ukraine.
Clear the trenches.
Alpha 2 is from France. He first came to Ukraine in 2022. He experienced firsthand how warfare has changed since then and the role drones play in it. He says he doesn't know if the French army is aware of these changes, but he hopes they are. If Russia wins the war, it will not stop. They will attack the Baltic states. They will attack Poland, and we will go back to World War II. There is a lot of Russian disinformation in France. Many people do not understand this war and say that it is not their war. They do not understand that Russian TV channels often threaten France and show a nuclear attack on France on a map. In Eastern Europe, they understand this threat, and Western Europe also needs to realize that Russia is a real threat. They want to bring back the USSR. Usually people who took part in combat operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, etc., this war is just hell for them. They didn't think they would come here as a resort, but now they have something to compare with, and they have realized that this is a real hell. There are people who have no combat experience, but are ideologically motivated, and they usually get used to and adapt to this war very quickly. Despite the advancement of technology, of course there is still a place in war for such proven tools as artillery and armored vehicles. But even here, the military is forced to adapt. Every appearance of a tank near the front line is a huge risk for the crew. Therefore, tankers say, they are used in exceptional cases.
Not long ago, we could go to the Recon in jeeps, or walk to see the positions where we would work on the tank. But now, this is no longer possible. There is a very high saturation of drones, and they do not shy away from hitting the infantry. That is why we are studying in detail the information from Recon drones, the routes we are going to take, and where we are going to work. It's not like we're just going to go and take it as it comes. We know our task clearly.
Shushurek is from Krasnohorivka, Donetsk region. He has been at war since 2014. He served in the infantry for 8 years.
I know the enemy we are fighting very well. Even back in 2014, when there were separatists, we found many Russians here. So I know my enemy, my motivation. My city is occupied. They destroyed my house completely. So I am motivated to defend my country, to defend my people, to liberate my home where I was born, where my father was born. I want to drive the enemy out of here, rebuild my home, and move on with my life. I have enough motivation.
If you were interested in today's episode and would like me to continue doing episodes like this next, then let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment. You can support the author by the details in the description. Thank you.